Hello and welcome back one last time for today at least, as we are heading into the last game of this best of 3 series. Currently it's 1-1 Empire against VG Gaming, and I want to make this very quick and short as the guys are already in the lobby and ready to go. What do you think each of those teams took away from the last 2 games?
Durka,
Silence.
you start. I don't know, it's hard to analyze, right? Because it's so chaotic.
Well, Empire in the first game, obviously, they took game number 1 in pretty quick fashion. Game number 2 was a little more drawn out, and it was definitely a swing from Empire leading to VG then getting key items and making sure that they controlled the map. I think that's the big thing. They had 2 big targets, the Undying and the Invoker, which Empire wanted to go for. How was a little more slippery. They couldn't quite go for him every time they wanted, but the initiation, you know, Empire, if they got the initiation, things look good. They got the kills, they got in there, silenced up the Undying before he gets his spells out. Sure, he gets the Greaves and things like that, but if VG were the ones that smoked up and hid in the jungle and went for, you know, counter initiation, they always dominated. They got in there, they got their spells off, and it was very hard for Empire to actually turn things back around in a team fight. Once they were in, or once they were initiated upon, that was it.
I would say, like, to build on that, I think that drafting-wise, like, I felt like Empire had VG Gaming's number in game number 1, but game number 2, it was a little bit more iffy, right? There wasn't any obvious way for them to end the game against VG Gaming's push.
Yeah, I think that if you're Empire, you're okay with how the draft has gone so far. Your play just has to be a little bit cleaner. I think if I know I said like Silent, okay, I was okay with the mech choice at first, but looking back on it, he just did no damage, and they were so committed to that build. So I wasn't a big fan of, but I thought overall, at the very least, they showed they can go toe-to-toe. Like, the second game wasn't a stomp by any means. It could have gone either way. I think if they hadn't run into that Undying, they almost certainly would have won that game. So I think that if Empire shore up a little bit of their aggression and their drafting, I think they'll be fine.
Well, let's see what both of those teams are going to have in store for us as we are heading into the draft of the final game. Guys, take it away.
So my biggest thing is going to be whether or not Team Empire ban away the Undying. For me, it's an obvious choice, right? And sure enough, like they take it away. I was like expecting some sort of brilliance out from Empire when they just left that one there in the first start. Like they were just like, yeah, go ahead, have Undying. We'll take Quap and Beastmaster. And I was like, you kind of need more of a plan in my mind to deal with Undying than just Quap and a Beastmaster. At least right now anyway, watching these teams.
You know what it reminded me of? It was like that joke on Reddit whenever Bulldog gets to play Lone Druid or Nature's Prophet. It's like, you play against Alliance.
You play against Alliance. You do not ban Furion.
Yeah, they win the game. You ban Fury. You learn your lesson.
You ban Furion because you are not an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like that kind of thing. It was like, okay, well, let's see what happens when we give Undying to a tier 1 team, and you found out the hard way, and so you're gonna ban it this time.
Yep. So Empire are not idiots. They will first ban away the Undying. Now VG Gaming are actually dipping into their reserve time already. A caster's nightmare blitz. I know you're a little news to this business, but a caster's nightmare when the reserve time is being used for the first bans because you have nothing to analyze here. But Beastmaster is going to be taken away. Strong performance in game 1, strong performance in game 2 still, even if they lost it. So I like that ban.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of time. Obviously, you're going to be uncomfortable, but the Queen of Pain going to be banned out by Empire. We saw Super go absolutely nuts with this hero in earlier series. I think this is a hero that you absolutely don't surrender, especially against a player like Super.
Yeah, and like last time, they let it through the ban pool because they knew Undying was going to be picked up, so they would get Queen of Pain +1 on the side of Empire. But here with the Undying banned away, obviously Queen of Pain is going to be the top priority for VG Gaming.
Yeah, and so VG Gaming, 1 ban left to go. Let's see who they pick up. I think that Wisp is an okay option if you don't play it exclusively, and I think VG... Oh, they're actually going to take out the Gyrocopter, which I think is fine. Like, Silent has demonstrated time and time again that this is their hero, but like it's one or the other. You gotta bite the bullet and go against something.
Wisp picked up fairly early. Do you think that, like, it's still obviously very strong, heavily prioritized by a lot of teams, but do you think there are significant downsides, any significant downsides to picking up a Wisp early on in the draft? You're basically saying, hey, I've got this support that doesn't provide me any disables.
It kind of locks you into like 3 core heroes.
Okay.
We saw earlier today Burden try something different with like the DK and the Necrolite.
Sure.
Plus the Wisp, but for the most part you're going to see the Tiny, the Chaos Knight, or the Sven. And obviously the Tiny is the #1 favorite on top of that. And then the Sven to a certain degree, and then the Chaos Knight after that. But that's kind of the only thing that it does. It sort of locks you in terms of lanes, because 90% of the time you'll see a Wisp mid in conjunction with one of those aforementioned heroes.
Yeah, the other 8% being maybe some sort of like dual off lane, like Wisp Bristleback, and then
Yeah,
also
exactly.
the safe lane Wisp, but very rarely seen. So it kind of makes your draft a little bit predictable in that regard. You generally have an idea the strengths of no matter what the Wisp is paired up with, the strengths of that lineup. VG Gaming gonna go for the Witch Doctor and Phantom Lancer here. How obviously had a superb performance on that Phantom Lancer after the like 25-minute marker. He was able to finally have an impact once he had that Diffusal Blade, and I don't think really ever died once he had that Diffusal. Maybe once, but it felt like he always had just so much chaos going on that it was very hard for Team Empire, who did have some single target disables, but how can you know what is actually the real Phantom Lancer and what isn't with Fiend's Grip or the Primal Roar?
Yeah, and Witch Doctor going to be picked up. It's one of the better heroes against the Wisp, and so it's a no-brainer. The Tiny is going to be picked up by Team Empire. This should mean Tiny Wisp dual lane mid. I'm kind of interested to see what Vici put mid in response to this. Typically, you'll pick a hero that'll get farmed no matter what. Dragon Knight would actually be okay, but not great. Queen of Pain would have been wonderful. Like Queen of Pain's still good against
Queen of Pain, Zeus, like a lot of the intelligence spammers essentially are pretty good versus the Wisp Tiny. You can also dual lane against it, which is another option.
Yeah, but the Wisp Tiny, it reigns supreme. It's still really strong.
Yeah, it's just so difficult, right? Because whether it's the bottle spamming, like the early bottle is such a huge... Like you have to lay down basically twice as much damage to the Tiny Wisp as you can take back, because they're just constantly, they pick up the early bottle with the Wisp, and then they're always getting that rune control. It's just super hard to keep the Tiny Wisp down, and then even then they could just leave the Tiny there alone, and Wisp goes and like stacks up the jungle, right? Double stacking with the Spirit Balls. So
in this game though, there is a bit of a difference in that Team Empire aren't going for that overwhelming, pressure how in the very beginning type of laning phase. It looks like they're going to be a little bit more passived out, which I'm pretty big fan of. Vici Gaming with a ban left to go. I don't know, man. What do you feel like Empire take here? I think Centaur's the hero. I have no idea why, but it's the hero.
That Aghanim's upgrade is pretty insane, but we haven't seen it picked up at all this tournament. What other... I would say that, like, just out of support, I would say Disruptor is one of my go-to bans when I have a Tiny Wisp on my side, so I was a little bit surprised that Team Empire didn't ban that one away. Instead they go for the Lion, which I can understand specifically against Vici Gaming, as well as the Enigma. This does leave the option for Vici Gaming. If they don't go for the Disruptor, they can also go a jungler here. They have both Chen and Enchantress available to them, and sure enough, they will go for that Enchantress. They saw success in it last time, going up against the Tiny BKB. We saw the damage that Fenrir was able to lay out routinely with those Impeta shots.
Yeah, and so Vici Gaming, pretty good response. I think that Enchantress is good against Tiny as well. If you get a little bit tanky and you can survive the initial burst combo, it's hard for him to get on top of you and right-click you because of that slow.
True.
From Untouchable.
And it did get buffed up as well in the latest patch, so...
And Tiny's going to get a BKB at some point. And Wisp is going to be far in the back.
Yeah.
This hero just does well. And you can pressure this mid lane. Like, you pick up one or two creeps early on, get aggressive on the Tiny Wisp. I think it's a good combination.
Get a Wildkin, throw down a Tornado, damaging both the Wisp and the Tiny. It's a dream.
Yep, exactly. And so, I think for Empire, they need... What is a silent hero this game? Jug would be good against, like, half of that pool.
Not so good versus the Phantom Lancer, but definitely good versus the Witch Doctor and Enchantress, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think about the other silent here. Or maybe this is even just a silent Tiny. I don't know what I'm talking about. And Resolution plays the short lane. Like, they have options here in terms of at least their players.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Okay, Earthshaker going to be picked up now. That does not lock us into a support Earthshaker at all. It seems much more likely that we'll have a Yoki offlane Earthshaker. I feel like you need your offlaner to be pretty impactful. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, you need Clockwork. Maybe you go for, I feel like Tidehunter perhaps a little bit greedy. Earthshaker, I think still fits the idea in that you are still pretty impactful and regularly impactful in the early to mid game through Earthshaker, solely because Fissure is such a great ability. You don't necessarily need to have Blink Dagger right away, which seems like Tidehunter, well, not when Ice 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 is playing it anyway, but typically Blink Dagger is a must for a Tide.
Yeah, definitely. And Earthshaker, the one thing that's awkward right now for Team Empire is if they ever wanted to get aggressive and just put the Earthshaker one-on-one against the Tidehunter, you would get wrecked in that lane. So
Yeah.
Tidehunter, though, is going to have a pretty decent game so far with the heroes that are in this pool. It's one of the better heroes to counter-initiate against a Wiston and Tiny against, and an Earthshaker. So Team Empire, they need something to be able to burst down or disengage, and they've picked up the Earthshaker as a result. I'm a big fan of that, but another hero that could serve that purpose as well would be nice. I think that running a dual core that could get rid of the PL illusions very quickly would be beneficial to you, especially since Yoki's not going to be playing a straight-up damage dealer.
Rubik picked up, I mean, it's a good counter versus Tidehunter to be able to steal Ravages of your own. Other than that, do you think there's any special reason they picked up Rubik here?
I think it's for that purpose
Alone? Just,
Like
just a counter to the Tide?
I think it's just a good counter to the Tide, and it pairs well. The nuke does well against the PL. It's just a little
Sure.
bit more AoE. The lift does well against Enchantress. Like, obviously, there isn't a whole lot that's really good to steal because the Witchstalker can just trigger the heal.
You know, I'm really, really upset. So I was going to say Leshrac or Lina picked up
Yeah.
for Vici Gaming. I was a little bit nervous about Leshrac. Like, he's really good versus Phantom Lancer in that he clears through illusions where he's cause so much AoE. But at the same time, once you have the Diffusal, right, like eventually the Phantom Lancer then becomes the counter to the Leshrac just because you burn through his mana so quickly. But I kind of feel like that kind of like very active pickup for Resolution, Leshrac, Lina, like that kind of kill combo, plus Rubik is a natural setup hero. Telekinesis into Split Earth or Light Strike Array works out. Vici Gaming, not terribly surprising that they go for the DK. You said it would have been okay versus Tiny Wisp, and he is going to have some help from the Enchantress, plus it's Vici Gaming. Super DK #1.
I was gonna say it, but I didn't want to interrupt your train of thought that I thought they were gonna take the DK because it's just a comfort hero for Super.
Sure.
Before everyone stopped picking him, it was like that was the thing to do, right? It was like Super DK.
Yep.
He'll have a stable performance, everything will go well, and I thought they were gonna do it again just because they needed a little bit more beef, and they needed a BKB hero mid. Like primarily, that was the main reason I thought it was gonna be the DK. Because if you take a hero like Shadow Fiend, you're gonna get destroyed by the Tiny Wisp. And I think
or the Earthshaker.
Yeah,
right? That burst
exactly.
damage, the blink instant stun is tough.
Yeah, so you need a BKB hero that's naturally tanky, and I think the Dragon Knight is the perfect pickup, and that's the reason why, because you need a BKB carrier mid, definitely. And so Empire, they need some way to deal with this, and
I want to see a killing hero. Do you have a different kind of play style in mind for this last pick?
I don't know, man. Just take Jug. That hero owns.
Just take Jug.
I haven't seen that hero in a while.
Even though
as
you'd
well.
have a Tiny and a Jug on the same team,
No,
I mean, it
that
feels like a bit
sounds
greedy.
That sounds really weird. I probably wouldn't do that. I'm just meant. But I don't know what else I'm gonna pick right now. My analysis isn't meant for these weird picks, and I haven't. Okay.
Sure. Blame the picks, Blitz.
I
Blame
don't
the
know this
picks.
meta yet. I'm figuring it out. Just
Sorry,
like
guys.
everybody
It's the
else is.
team's fault that I can't analyze this game. So Viper picked up. I mean, it wasn't what I was expecting, that's for sure. We're going to have a Silent Viper. It's got no AoE versus a Phantom Lancer. That's a bit concerning for me. At least it's tanky, though.
Yeah, and you run at stuff. Like that's the primary thing is that Empire. I think that they stick to their roots and they run at you as hard as they can, non-stop sprint. There's not a huge wall in between you and the rest of the heroes. Like last game, there was the Undying Tombstone on top of the the EMP plus Tornado combination.
Yep.
And I think those two combinations of things, it's just too difficult to fight into. But this game, all you really have to worry about is the Tidehunter. But he's in a mobile watermelon that doesn't really do much for you, aside from like sprout out from the ground.
Especially when it's Ice Tidehunter who may not be going for that early Blink Dagger and may still go for like the Guardian Greaves, since he seems to love that item. I mean, I loved it on. I just want to say, like, I thought the Undying. I didn't think there was any synergy, real synergy with the Undying and Phantom Lancer. But boy, Phantom Lancer, one of the biggest problems is he's kind of squishy, right? And just the way that Ice built with all those team fight items, Guardian Greaves, Pipe, etc. Shiva's, I think, was the next item after that.
Yeah.
It just made the Phantom Lancer so tanky even before he had any tank items.
Man, I actually love their effigies. If you look, it's like, it's just like the dry sense here is like black hole. There's like not a lot of and if you look at Yoki's, there's no description at all. It's just a Magnus.
And they don't even have effigies for the rest.
Yeah, they just kind of, all right, whatever. It was just something that entertained me like crazy, but.
I'm glad you brought that to our attention, Blitz.
Yeah, I had fun with it. So the Wisp is definitely going to get this rune here at the bottom lane. Ice kind of looks like he wants to contest for it, but Yoki's in position to block him out. So this should be pretty easy for Aloha Dance to grab.
Yep, Bounty Rune going to him. Bounty Rune also being picked up by Super, who's going to be going for the super fast bottle as well.
Haha. I saw what you did there.
Thanks, Blitz. Silent is going to be going top lane. So they're switching up the lanes? Is that what they're doing? There's no way this Yoki's playing support, right? And they have an off lane Rubik?
I think this is just he'll TP down at some point. They're
maybe a quick kill, first blood, right? The surprise Fissure on somebody. Oh well, not on How, but maybe on FY.
The problem here is that they don't want to give. They don't want to put Yoki in a position where he's straight up in a one-on-one against the Tidehunter. Like I said. That would be absolutely. I called these lanes, didn't
you? Really did?
I said that they should just dual lane with How, because no matter what happens, if you put Ice in a scenario where he's going to get absolute farm, I think it's worth it.
Oh, man, I kind of want to see Silent. I mean, he's already dropping a little bit of HP, so it's understandable. But I kind of want to see him harass that Witch Doctor just because, you know, they still have the missing Earthshaker who could get the surprise Fissure on FY. And a First Blood would go a long way. Meanwhile, Vici Gaming, while they're losing the top lane, they're not going to overly win the bottom lane, that's for sure. It should draw even or even to Ice's favor just through CS. You've got also a jungler on the side of Vici Gaming. So obviously, if things stay the way they are right now, Vici Gaming are going to get a huge lead in the laning phase.
Yeah, I think this was a good call by Vici as well, because all you have to do is win the lane with Ice in this one-on-one position, and if he gets enough farm, then it's too difficult to contest them early game. And this Enchantress doesn't even have to gank if she doesn't want to, because her lanes are going to do just fine. And she sent the Tornado Creep mid as well to help out, so the Wisp Tiny isn't going to do as well as it should, and yeah, Silent TP's down, he absolutely has to. But even then, like, Ice has picked up enough farm. Like, he's got this Enchanted Mango, which he grabs every single game. He's got Boots and level 3. And meanwhile, at top, How is pretty uncontested in terms of farm. And it's not like an Earthshaker is going to stop him.
Yeah, for sure. The only upside for Empire is the middle lane. But as you said, Super should do okay, right? The bare minimum is just not dying against the tiny Wisp. He'll pick up some CS here and there with the Breathe Fire spam as well.
Yeah, I shouldn't sound like so excited or surprised when I get something right, even if it's off me, because it just
like,
makes me
wow,
sound like I did it. It's like, it makes me sound like I normally get things wrong, and I was just kind of surprised that it worked out in my favor for once.
Yeah, you need to play it a little bit more cool.
Yeah, I don't have to point out the fact that I was right. Just like, it was expected.
You just got to be a little bit more arrogant about it. You just got to be like, yeah, called it again.
Yeah,
standard Blitz Dota. That's that 7k MMR kicking into play. Bottom lane, we have some action. Fenrir is trying to come in from the side, but they do not manage to get the Centaur Stomp, so all is well. As we're going to continue with this kill-less laning phase, so far anyway. I keep looking at middle, but again, like, as long as Super is decently up there in HP, he should never go down. I guess the biggest question is whether or not Yoki gets caught by FY.
Yeah, Yogi should be fine just because Fissure does such a good job of zoning out in this early phase, and he has so much tree line to work with.
At the same time, like, he's going to go into the, like, How can jump in with a doppelganger.
Oh, he's got no tankers.
Yeah, he's done for. Yoki, like, he can throw out the Fissure. He's waiting it out to the last second, it looks like, trying to get a block, perhaps? Nope. Okay. Gives away the first blood without even, just not even saying anything about it. He just turns around and accepts it, I guess.
Yeah, I thought he would, at least throw out a Fissure, but he kind of just accepted his fate there.
Yeah,
he's like, you know what, you guys got me. Like, you.
It's like, all right, I'm not gonna. You
guys
caught me
this.
with my pants down. I'll go ahead and turn over and bend over. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like, you guys take this one. This one's on me.
Take Ice. As you said, like, him being able to have, like, level 2 Kraken Shell is pretty big, right? 24 damage reduction. It basically means that Rubik's damage is cut almost in half. Viper, you know, a third of his damage is completely gone. Ice is just playing very aggressively here, burning through tangos, but is getting more than enough gold for that as the turn.
Yeah, and the main reason he's been able to do this is because the Enchantress keeps sending over Satyrs to burn Silence mana,
Mhm.
so all they can do right now is give him the right click, but it's
Yoki.
not a lot of damage.
The Maledict, it's going to tick. They get a couple more right clicks. Yoki's not going to die to just that. How, though, has another lance as soon as he sees Yoki. Night Vision jukes. Not going to be good enough. Yoki will end up going down, but damn. Resolution Aloha Dance. Of course, they dive middle at the exact same time. They get the pick off on Fenrir, the Enchantress, who goes down, as well as the Dragonite. So in the end, the trade-off very much worth it for Empire.
And a good rotation for them at top, but at the same time, Resolution and Aloha Dance finally getting aggressive on this mid lane, and they need to, because Super right now, he was just kind of playing that static laning phase, like, okay, all I have to do is survive, and I've kind of won in that sense, because Ice is doing such a good job, and the Enchantress should be picking up some farm as well. So good rotation by, not rotation, that's the wrong word, but good aggressive move by Empire to go on him, and it looks like they want to try to go again, but not really in position to. And
yeah, they don't, unless he goes into intelligence treads, he doesn't quite have the mana to be able to go for the stun and toss back, and I think that's really the only way they catch the DK in a aggressive maneuver like that. Now, they do have always want to fly in this top lane. The Rubik is going to try and help Yoki out. Obviously, the lane is a nightmare. They can freely dive the tower thanks to the Phantom Lancer's natural strength. Oh, middle lane, we caught the tail end of that one. Dragonite goes down. Looks like another toss back. Resolution Aloha Dance find yet another kill there.
Yeah, and this is the lane to watch out
for. He's going to get the kill on Silent. He has a Ravage. No, he's not actually. I really thought he was going to pop the Ravage and go for another Anchor Smash, but he's only got level 1 Anchor Smash. Fully invested into that Kraken Shell, and 1 level of Gush means that he simply doesn't have a whole lot of damage. Again, Ice playing for that heavy amount of tankiness rather than the kill power of Tide.
Yeah, and still, being able to zone out a Viper with the Tidehunter is pretty impressive in itself.
Sure.
Just because you expect the Viper to be able to win against most melee heroes, but
Ice. They pull him back, but they don't want to get too close together. The cast is going to bounce around. They get always want to fly with the Maledict. They do manage to get a good Fisher with a relocate in. They easily pop How and might just get FY as well. He's going to run down, but will TP out. The right clicks. Oh, Aloha Dance. A little bit late on pulling those balls back. And will be unable to get the kill. 2-4 now, 6.5 minutes in.
And Super pops the ulti form, and this is where he's going to try to kind of get aggressive because he knows that Aloha Dance doesn't have any more bottle ticks, and so just hitting down the tower a little bit, but he's got to be careful because he does have 8 stick charges. The bottom rune isn't going to be available, so they're going to find nothing but dust down there, and Fenrir just continues to farm out this jungle, but not doing it at quite a quick pace. He's only level 4 right now, and Super just kind of attacking the tower once in a while, running away, and Resolution has enough mana for this, though.
They're going to be able to jump Super. They do get some damage on Aloha Dance. He might actually fall, but never mind. They have the burst to get the kill on Super. Meanwhile, it's waiting for How to jump bottom lane, but it seems like Silent is playing this pretty passive and is not going to get caught. So Empire find their pickoff. We'll see whether or not Vici Gaming managed to get their gank successfully. Silent's going to be slowed down. Ice does, of course, have the Ravage if it's necessary, but it doesn't seem like it's necessary. Fisher comes in, a bit of surprise, but Silent will still end up falling. The Doppelganger to the side. How will get out, and no response from Empire. No TPs available, and they did not have the relocate yet. Another 5 seconds until that's up.
Yeah, they might actually want to fight that after this point, though, because How is so low. Fenrir doesn't provide you much, and Ice, he does have the Ravage up, but I don't think this is going to be an aggressive Ravage if he were to use it. Like, this would be purely to get the hell out of dodge, but right now, Empire, they're executing the combo a lot better than we've seen all day. The Tiny Wisp is really paying off for them so far.
Sure, FY. It looks like he's going to be caught by the rotation. They do have the TP in from the Ice Tidehunter. Maybe he can turn this run around. They get the nuke and the right click to be able to finish off the Witch Doctor. Ice running around, not sure what to do with his haste. He thought about blowing the Ravage there, decided it wasn't the right idea, but his support still died. So he just holds off on it. The only play would be using it to defend middle. Super just going to be pushed back. Are they actually going for this kill? The turnaround, How is actually going to TP in. They're going to try and go for the Wisp. Resolution stunned up, but he got off the Avalanche at the same time. Aloha Dance, Resolution. They're both going to get out of here if necessary. It looks like, yeah, they decide, go ahead, relocate back up to top lane. But this does give space for Super, who popped his Elder Dragon form to put some pressure on the tower alongside How. Now, always want to fly. Too bad he's not level 6. Doesn't have an additional nuke, but does bring How low enough he's going to back up.
Yeah, they both rotate in mid again, and How has been kind of pressured out of here. And once again, the same story. How's farm isn't the best. just because he's had to rotate so often. And Resolution getting a little bit of the better deal here, as well as Silent, who's finally picked up in farm.
And he's forced out the Ravage on Ice.
Yeah, exactly. And so had to use it to live right there, and FY takes over atop.
Yoki, Fenrir holds himself to the side, trying to make sure that he doesn't get hit by the Fisher block, and sure enough, he does have enough room to sneak on through, so he will be fine. Empire, they rotate around, not really finding anything, but at the same time not really losing anything.
Yeah. Something I want to point out as well is that the Witch Doctor is usually a good counter to this Tiny Wisp, but did you notice at top when they went for him, they immediately split up.
Oh,
Like
they were willing to break the tether to
exactly.
make sure they didn't get hit by the cast.
That's a veteran move, because most teams would kind of like stick together, not really sure what to do, but they just hard committed.
Super's going to be caught here. The Fisher, I was going to say Fisher block will allow them to get some more right clicks in, but it's not even necessary. The burst damage from Resolution is more than enough. So Treads, Drums, 4-0 and 3. This could be even more successful. Tiny than an era Tiny, it seems like. Wiz coming in, helping, healing him. FY is going to bounce. He's about to pick up his level 6. I think he wants to go for the kill here on Silent. It's a very bold maneuver, but he's going to go for it. The relocate is the response, though. He gets the Maledict, but a flying snake is going to land on top of FY and claims the kill. FY will pay for his overzealousness.
And that was a good move if there wasn't a Tiny Wisp into the game. But because there is, you have to respect it. You can't forget about this combination. And it just felt like it was one of those things that he did. He's like, oh, I'm going to get the solo kill. Forgot the fact that the Wisp and the Tiny can come in at any point and turn things around. And it feels like Empire, they're just playing this combination so patiently. Nothing that they do is too obvious. They're slowing the pace of the game down, looking for opportunities with this Tiny and Wisp to counter-initiate.
And at this point in time, we're looking at big counters. How is hit by the Fisher. Resolution comes in, does get the Avalanche onto him. The toss on the main target as well, the Echo Slam, and they get the kill on How. Very much worth it, especially with Yoki low. Middle lane, they are trying to play aggressively, push in that tier 1 tower. Always want to fly. Going to keep him back, though. I doubt Super's going to be able to push forward anymore. The Wisp is coming in from the side. Super does have some backup in the Witch Doctor. They're going to continue to go forward, trying to claim the super kill with just 2 supports. They almost get it. The Wisp Ball's not quite enough, but the Fade Bolt is there. FY gets the turnaround, but his ultimate is too far away from Aloha Dance.
Resolution,
and he will get away, and FY stuck. He has to commit to the kill on Aloha Dance. Resolution misses the Avalanche, but will get the toss up here. The right clicks, and unstoppable spree as Ice is just puts his hands up in the air. What can he do? How is going to go on to Resolution now, but of course with the Wisp still alive, there's no way you kill that Tiny. He's already tanky enough, and with the tether heals, it's too much to handle. Top 3 on the net worth, all Empire, and while Yoki is obviously suffering quite heavily, they're made up heavily in the fact that the Wisp is sitting 3rd in net worth, tied up with the Viper ahead of every single one of the Vici gaming.
It's honestly just because of the fact that they were able to go for a double
okay,
support
Ravage
kill.
is going to go off. Ice. He's still heavily slowed down. He's still going to fall despite the fact he blew the Ravage. They do get a good cast out. Silent, he's going to be the first to fall, and Pettis shots peckering at him. Resolution, Aloha Dance holding the cast between the two of them, but the relocate out will be there. They return from whence they came. Yoki, unfortunately, may be left to die as his allies go ahead and farm up. The Lances are there, always want to fly, trying to catch up, but he can't really do anything. In fact, if anything, he may end up going down as well. He manages to steal the lands, pushes How back, but both Super, Fenrir, and How are all trying to chase him down. Not enough space, though, to be able to get that kill. Empire do manage to get a tier 1 tower in the bottom lane. It's a trade-off, though.
And you're perfectly okay with that because, again, every single time that a Ravage is blown, that's another minute and a half that Vici don't want to get into a fight, because the downside to this Tidehunter is that he doesn't have his mech quite yet, and so the amount of utility that he provides in team fights is very limited, and this is a very immobile hero. Like, he shows up to a lane, if he's got Ravage, they can fight. If he doesn't, then he's just kind of a soft spot hero that doesn't really pull off a lot of damage.
So I feel like the Phantom Lancer pickup into the Tiny is not bad by any means, but it is very net worth heavy. And by saying that, I kind of mean that, like, How is going to be countered by the heavy amount of physical damage and splash from the Tiny when he's this far behind him. Now, Super, Telekinesis, there's no follow-up TPs. Looks like they're just trying to slow down the push, because in the middle lane, Resolution and Aloha Dance, we're going for the kill onto Ice, deciding against it. Resolution now turns around, does get the Avalanche just to clear space for Aloha Dance, and that should be enough. Top lane does get taken out by the Elder Dragon form of the Dragonites. They did steal it on Rubik, but nothing too special about that.
Oh, and Resolution went for the intercept at top, assuming that Super would go for this rune, but I mean, Super's just had such a rough game. This isn't typical of him. 1-5-2 right now. He's usually, I feel like, the rock of Vici, right? Like, he always does a really good job of not dying, getting kills here and there, and just being really stable in terms of performance. But this game, he's had a rough, and it's just a combination of Wiz Tiny. He doesn't respect it enough, I feel, and Resolution almost picking up his Ags, and once that happens, I mean, the damage from the combination of these two heroes is going to be insanely high.
You know, I said the Elder Dragon form wasn't going to do much, but it did manage to put a little pressure on that top tower as it fades. He just got a little bit of poison damage there. No need to over-aggressively push for towers, though. That's for sure. Right on the Empire side, they almost have the Aghanims Tiny. At that point, towers are for free.
Yeah, you don't have to overcommit, Cap. You just wait it out, look for opportunities to come with you, and abuse the Tiny Wisp combination. Like, go around the map. If anybody's farming solo, which they can at this point, like, look how differently Vici are playing in this game. Like, how last game we just saw him split push as hard as he could to catch up, but this game, he always has to be around somebody. Like, he has to have somebody babysit him.
How sees what's coming. They do have the haste rune on Aloha Dance. Ice. Slowed down, but it looks like the TPs are going to force both Aloha Dance and Resolution back. They do have the Fissure that is going to be available in a second here. Super managed to get the stun onto Aloha Dance, leaving his support behind, but the tether is good enough for Aloha Dance to catch up. Alongside that haste rune, he sticks with the Resolution till the end. Farther up, though, Silent is going to be caught by Fenrir and Ice, trying to force out the Ravage, and Silent is successful in that regard, even if he is going to die for it.
Yeah, and again, another Ravage is used, and so Vici Gaming, they have... What are they really going to get out of this, though? The top tower isn't really in a position to be pushed out. It's only the Viper that died, and the Tiny Wisp is still alive, and at top, Ice has to be careful.
Oh, they're going to get him.
Yoki's coming in.
Yoki has the chain stun available with the relocate. They easily clean up the kill on Ice, and this is why I was kind of showcasing Yoki's positioning earlier. He could afford to just solo into the enemy jungle because he hits a Fissure, and there's a relocate to follow it up, and it's like a guaranteed kill. They relocate back to middle. They're going to head up into their jungle where they'll find Vici Gaming. But is this a fight they really want to take? They're going to try and pop Fenrir as soon as possible. The nukes will do the job, but at the same time, always want to fly. He pops the dragon form. Not enough to get away from the lance from How. Resolution, though, is going to try and punish him as best as possible. Couple of right clicks. Yoki in position. Echo Slam. Toss up. And they take down the carry of Vici Gaming for a godlike spree on Resolution.
Yeah, that's a 16-minute godlike spree. There's nobody on Vici right now that can fight him. Like, this Dragon Knight has gone the full poverty build with the multiple bracers, just trying to fill out item slots right now, because what else is he going to buy at this point? And he's actually being ran out as well.
They're actually caught up to Super. Now Empire, well, there's still two heroes down on the side of Vici Gaming, so I guess their aggression can't really be stifled at all by Vici Gaming without enough heroes there to be able to TP in. They do not have a Ravage still, but it seems like Empire aren't going to worry too much about it. Again, no need to press aggressively for towers. They just kind of come natural with a Tiny Wisp lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And they understand the way that this game is going right now. The PL is crumbling under this pressure. The Dragon Knight doesn't have a lot of farm. Like, he's been forced into this double bracer build, which is terribly inefficient for him. There's not even an urn on FY. Like, how often do you see this guy this underfarmed? And Fenrir as well, who's, you know, he's got an urn of his own. Hasn't been able to really have too much impact in terms of ganking around the map, and he hasn't had the farm to supplement that as well. And so this game, Resolution, it just feels like him and Aloha Dance have taken it over. Like, you're just living in their world at this point. And a Yasha almost completed for Resolution as well, and that's going to mean just so much damage coming out of that hero.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you take a look at the net worth difference. It's 5K to the advantage of Team Empire, and that 5K is the amount of gold that Tiny has over the Phantom Lancer right now. He's 10K at 18 minutes. How is sitting at 5K.
He's got less than the Wisp right now.
Yeah, that's actually still a whole entire meme that's going on, Blitz. It's been constant through this game that somehow they've had such a successful Tiny Wisp duo that they've stayed ahead of How the whole entire time.
Yeah, and so Aloha Dance picks up this Glimmer Cape, and although at first glance you think, okay, it makes you invisible, it makes it hard for Vici to do anything, and it seems like Vici supports are super greedy. Like, in every single game they've seen an Invis hero, they almost never have preemptive Dust or
wow, he actually gets hit by that telekinesis with the avalanche in. They're going to be able to finish him off. Resolution right in the middle of everybody is soaking up some damage, but is going to start backing out. He doesn't want to take too much with the Maledict. He'll let his allies clean up as Aloha Dance. Well, he ends up getting just barely away, lives through the damage of the poison from Super. Another two-man stand up from Yoki. Super's not going anywhere, and I feel like Fenrir is probably going to go down as well. Ice is here to help out, but Yoki blinks ahead of Fenrir. Even with that slow auto attack, it doesn't really matter. Fenrir completely blocked out. His line of retreat is gone. 4 heroes out from VG Gaming, and all 5 up still from Team Empire.
And again, they're just being overrun. And something I wanted to point out is that
Look at the Wisp.
yeah, look at Aloha dance. Like he's just
He's
kind
gonna
of
take a tower
by himself. Like how often do you see? Okay, all right, fine. Like that shouldn't happen. Come on, like they. All right,
Oh God, is he got
Aloha
suicide
dance?
for it? Calm down there, Aloha Dance.
All right, relax.
Trying to make too many big plays. It probably will be denied. Yoki goes in for the right click and Chant Totem hit. He'll probably pay for it, though. He does have Echo Slam if Ice is not too careful. Lays out a Fissure, buys some space. Doesn't look like the Maledict's going to be enough damage.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to get out with that tower kill. And that amount of aggression that you're constantly seeing from Empire, there's not a lot of answers for Vici Gaming. Like, they don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. How he's just not come online, and it's going to take him at least, what's that coming on the courier? 1 Blade of Alacrity right now. I'd say at least 5 more minutes before he can have any sort of impact. But this game, Empire have such good ways to deal with the illusions. They've got the Aghanim's Tiny up so early, and he's got a Yasha drums and 1,700 gold on top of that. You've got a Blink Dagger Earthshaker. Like, you finally actually have ways to deal with it. On top of that, you've got a Wisp that's pretty much unkillable because, like I mentioned, the Glimmer Cape, the 66% resistance for that 5-second period of time. It pairs so well with this hero.
Yeah, I mean, even if it just takes you an extra 2 or 3 seconds to kill him, that's still an extra 2 or 3 seconds where Tiny's dishing out an amazing more amount of damage thanks to that attack speed and a lot of increased survivability as well. Ice slowing down Silent, but VG Gaming really aren't there to follow that one up. It's a bit too dangerous to go for the Viper anyway because they know Relocate is online. So if they try and go too deep for just 1 hero kill, they will be countered out by Empire, whether it's the TP in from Yoki and providing an Echo Slam or the Relocate in, or more likely both.
Yeah, you know what the crazy part is as well is, if you remember that bottom fight, FY, they actually had 0 stuns for him, and he channeled his full duration ultimate in the middle of 5 heroes without being able to be brought down, and they still didn't have enough damage to kill anybody.
Oh yeah, it was straight up just like the Tiny soaking up most of that death ward, and he backed out because, you know, a little bit out of fear, right? Because you're taking so much damage and you have Maledict on you. It's pretty natural you go, okay, I don't want to take any more damage. But the truth was, it was only level 2, right? So it wasn't even close to threatening the Tiny. He was just taking so little damage, and I think a large part of that comes down to, like, Craggy Exterior, right? The increase in armor just naturally through Aghanims, through the Manta, just through he has so many different stat items plus levels. He's got a decent amount of armor, and physical damage doesn't mean too much to him anymore like it used to.
Yeah, and Super gets stunned up in mid, but I don't think this is going to mean any sort of rotation, but this might actually mean Vici's time to go, as they know that they are kind of split up, but Tiny Wisp, again, you have to assume that they're always going to be able to get there.
Yeah, can you actually win the fight with that full 5-on-5, essentially? You can hit the Ravage, slow them down, especially since we do not see the BKB out from Resolution. Do you think that's the right idea going up against the Tidehunter? Because obviously we saw how Era built for the BKB. Obviously an entirely different game, but the Manta build for Tiny, still the right idea?
I think if he didn't have the Aegis, he'd have gone for a BKB, but he does have an Aegis, so he's probably thinking to himself, well, we've either won that fight by that point or we haven't, and me getting a BKB won't make the biggest difference in the world.
Sure.
It would probably enable him to fight, but I think he just wants to put out pure raw damage and the ability to chase out. And I think the Manta also makes him quite tanky.
Always want to fly. He's actually just harassing. Yoki does have an Echo Slam. They could actually blow up Super potentially, but Yoki's waiting in the back. He wants to jump in on Fenrir with the help of the Tiny Wisp, and they will be able to dunk him nice and quick. No Echo Slam burn just yet. 4 seconds until the Blink Dagger's up, but he will be harassed by Hao and his illusions, but Resolution's got a double damage. No one can get close to this madman. And it looks like they'll probably just get a tier 2 for free. Vici Gaming unlikely to respond against a DD.
Yeah, there's no way, especially with Ice not having a Blink Dagger. Like, we saw him have such a good start, but he just hasn't had impact, and that's mostly just because of the fact that his team can't fight. Like, he's got cores that are just way underfarmed. If Super was like halfway to a BKB at this point, I'd be like, okay, they can probably get into an engagement. But Ice is literally the only person on his team that had farm for the first 10 minutes, and so most of his Ravages were defensive in mid.
Oh, missed Avalanche. They do manage to get the stun out there. Super is still going to be bursted from a distance. Remember, they still have the follow-up of the Earthshaker at any point in time, right? Yoki just keeps sitting on the back. He leads with a Fissure, and he just waits. He waits for VG Gaming to try and engage. If they do jump, say they wander in, try and pop a Ravage or something, they're going to be heavily grouped up. Yoki provides the counter initiation, which may mean that Always Wanna Fly manages to steal Ravage at that point. The possibilities are endless. He just knows he doesn't need to overly commit. He just responds to whatever Vici Gaming do.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it because, like you said, it's not the damage or the Ravage that scares you, it's all the follow-up. And so if he can just stop that follow-up even for half a second, and Empire can get back on top of Vici, then the fight's over at that point. And as I was saying earlier, like Ice, he's played well this game, but the problem is all of his his Ravages have had to be defensive. Like, you've never seen him in an opportunity where it's been a 5-on-5 fight, he walks in, Ravages, and then they clean up a fight. And that's just Empire kind of outmaneuvering them and forcing awkward engagements for Vici.
And it is kind of, well, it's also a natural result of the build as well from the Tidehunter. When he goes for this Arcane's mech build, you're not very likely to see good offensive Ravages, right? Because you don't have that mobility item. So it seems much more likely that you're going to be blowing them defensively. Do you think that we saw success with it in the past? This game specifically, though, a lack of Blink Dagger, I feel like is costing a lot for Vici Gaming here. Fenrir, well, he doesn't have the right-click damage, but they do have the Avalanche, and with Tiny coming in, he'll help Yoki clean up that kill. Beyond Godlike, 8-22 now, 25 minutes in.
I think, honestly, Cap, it's not really even a Blink Dagger that would really change things because they don't have the follow-up damage. Again, it's just the fact that the cores have suffered so heavily. This Dragon Knight finally picks up something. Like, he's got a Sange and drums. The PL has a Diffusal Blade, but you're kind of left to wonder, is this a little bit too late?
Sure. 16,000 net worth on our Tiny. 16,000. Hey, you have 8K on the Phantom Lancer. You can sometimes say, like, okay, when a carry has 2K and the enemy carry has 4K, oh, he's got double the net worth. Wow, that's really impressive. But to continue along that line just shows a display of dominance that can't really be stopped. Super is going to be able to dodge the Avalanche, but he won't be able to dodge the stun. They do get a good Ravage, 3-man, but they don't have any follow-up. There's just no damage. They're just going to continue to beat in Super's face. Fenrir is here to try and help out with some heals, but Ice is going to go down. There's just nothing stopping Resolution. He literally does not have a single dent in him. He's a giant rock man, for God's sake. They're going to be able to chase down Fenrir now with a slow of Silent. 1, 2, 3, now a fourth, and it looks like that is going to be the end. FY ends up falling as the last rampage for Empire. Hopefully FY is going to give it to him. And that's it. Empire. Oh, wow. But Empire, though.
Oh man,
what an upset!
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, they just look how excited they're actually going.
Look at Aloha dance. He's like, that's right.
I've never seen like a
CIS
team.
Dota.
Yeah, they're getting so hyped right now, and they should be. Like, they just beat whatever the closest to a favorite to TI is. Like, before this match, almost everybody was saying, okay, easy 2-0 for Vici. Like, yeah. There's like not even a question. A lot of people on Reddit Team Liquid, they were like, okay, Vici got this, and I would have agreed with them. But I mean, Empire, the 2 games they won. It's not even like they just won. They dominated.
Yeah, we said as an analyst crew, impressive if they take a game off of Vici.
Yeah, and they took 2. And I'm pretty sure not only us wouldn't have expected that, but the same goes for pretty much everyone at home. That's a huge upset, and that must make Empire feel like $1 million right now. And they, yeah, we've seen it. They are super happy. Now, before we're going to end the show, I quickly want to break down those games. Or rather the second game, as we already talked about the first one. That Tiny Wisp comp worked out so well for Empire. During the draft, would you have expected this to work so well in their favor? Or did you think, like, yeah, I don't know.
Like, the way the lanes worked out, I didn't see that exactly happening. They sacked Yoki pretty much. They gave Rubik the lane bot, then they switched Viper, then they just every time equalized whatever VG tried to throw at them. And then Yoki's positioning throughout the game, I've got to say, was spectacular. He was always in the right spot, moving into his jungle at the right time. He got his Blink Dagger at a reasonable time as well. You know, running around with Soul Ring Tranquils, it's like, okay, he's an offlane Earthshaker, he's doing okay. All of a sudden, hang on a second, he's got 1,800 gold, 2,000 gold, he's got a Blink Dagger, and now they're starting to get the steam going.
I feel like the biggest thing is that, like, the Tiny Wisp was really good, obviously. It worked out very well in the laning phase. I think Super, one of the few times that I would say he kind of dropped the ball. Probably shouldn't have died as many times to that middle lane. But he also didn't have a whole lot of help. Like, Enchantress is trying to provide that. But as you were kind of saying when I suggested dual lanes, you're not going to beat out the Tiny Wisp no matter what you do. You can't just output enough damage to keep them back. So they're always going to win that. And Super was just kind of the one who was taking the beating every single time. And all of a sudden the Tiny's way ahead in net worth. And how, I mean, also, he got shut down pretty routinely by some very clutch. I mean, their teamwork with relocates was amazing.
Yeah, and people are going to look at this result and see a 2-1, and if they haven't watched the game, they're going to think like, oh, well, Vici, maybe they just dropped the ball. It was a close series, but no, the 2 games they won, it just looked like they were 2 different levels. Like, Empire just kind of ran roughshod over them. There wasn't a whole lot that Vici could do. I think if Vici, tomorrow especially, they have to kind of take a hard look and say, okay, we got stomped. What do we do? Like, how do we stop that kind of onslaught? Because it feels like Empire have a good understanding of what they need to do in every single game. Like, win the lanes as hard as we can. Make whatever adjustments we can to have. Make at least Resolution or Silent have a good game.
I want to actually pick up on something you just mentioned, net worth on that Tiny. We looked it up. Actually, he almost set new records with that one. Very close.
Second, at 25 minutes, I just missed out what he had at 20, but it was top 5, I believe. But at 25 minutes, second highest net worth on that Tiny. Pretty ridiculous. A lot of gold on that guy.
Super impressive. I mean, for me, I'm looking at Empire, and I don't immediately go Tiny Whis. I think of a lot of aggression, but I don't necessarily think Tiny Whis. I know they can play it, but for me, it's not like era Tiny. Right?
Yeah.
It's not something that I naturally expect for them to be overly dominant with. So the fact that they managed to take on Vici Gaming with that combination was super impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about the Tiny net worth, but the Wisp one was consistently above the Phantom Lancer. Like, at that point, it's not the Tinies that you should be worried about. It's just the fact that if the Wisp has more net worth than the Phantom Lancer, things have probably spiraled out of control at that point.
I mean, if a whiff starts to take away your towers by
Yeah,
himself,
exactly.
you know, that kind of means you're not
It was
having
pretty
the best
clowny. It was
game.
like,
Well,
yeah, no, but it was an overall great game, and I really, really enjoyed it. Now, of course, Team Empire is going to have a fairly long break as they will be waiting in the grand finals. They will have a 1-game advantage, and we'll see if Vici is going to fight their way through the lower bracket to meet them again and maybe get the revenge, or if it's going to be NIP or Burden United. Everything is still possible tomorrow. We're going to start to follow the way through the lower bracket. So, guys, thanks a lot for joining me here on the desk. It's been a pleasure having everyone here, and it's been a pleasure to have you guys watching. So thanks a lot for tuning in. We should be starting the pre-show tomorrow at exactly 12, hopefully, and then at 12:30 we should head into the first game of the lower bracket. So we hope to see you guys again tomorrow, and with that I wish you a good night.